This program is intended for informational purposes only and does not contain medical advice. As always, please contact your physician or qualified healthcare provider with any questions regarding a medical condition. Hot and Bothered podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Hot and Bothered with Melyssa Ford. This is officially season 2. I know, Bobby. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you are new to the show, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us. And if you are a day one watcher and listener, well, thank you guys for joining me on the journey. As you can see, here we are in our new home, our new set. I still can't believe that we made it here. Like, this has literally been a vision inside of my head. And to see it come to fruition in such a short amount of time I had to be reminded to sit in the moment. You know what I mean? I had to be reminded, Mel, you can actually just relax and look around and enjoy your vision coming to fruition. You don't have to just move on to the next and, I'm gonna do this, and I gotta do this, and blah, blah, blah. No, chill out for a second and look around and look at what you manifested. And when that happened, I was like, oh, okay. Gave myself permission to do that. So if you find yourself doing the same thing, take the time out to congratulate yourself or give yourself a pat on the back. It could be that you got out of bed. It could be that you made it through the day, or it could be that you manifested a vision that you've had on your vision board or inside of your head, and here it is in front of you. Honestly, right now, the world is a lot. The world is a lot, and life be lifing. I mean, look at this.
Just moments ago, President Donald Trump pardoned anti-abortion activists.
Tonight, relentless Santa Ana winds sparking multiple new fires across Southern California.
Again, the clock's ticking on TikTok.
Services just announced it will eliminate 20,000 jobs. They say it's part of a major restructuring plan.
The FBI says it has created a task force to investigate threats and attacks against Tesla location.
The undoing of the Department of Education.
This morning, a Maui doctor behind bars charged with the attempted murder of his wife.
The head of the Environmental Protection Agency announced 31 actions rolling back key public health and climate change policy.
And the Department of Education says half of its workers are losing their jobs.
Breaking news from Wall Street right now. The markets just closed, clocking in their worst day of the year. The Dow Jones falling nearly 1,000 points.
In D.C., city workers tearing up Black Lives Matter Plaza, permanently removing the massive BLM street mural.
A South Carolina inmate was executed via firing squad.
Trump is calling Liberation Day when he's set to impose very sweeping new tariffs on U.S. trading partners.
Tonight, the girlfriend of the murder suspect, Darnell Jones, is speaking out. He's accused of killing his 13-year-old daughter, Kimani Lateef.
Today, the S&P 500 slid to its lowest level since September.
More fallout from the cuts by Elon Musk and his Doge team. President Trump got more than 70% of the vote in Wood County, West Virginia last November. But some people who find their federal jobs in limbo now say they regret supporting him.
And Pacific Coast Highway is closed from Malibu to the Palisades after being buried by mudslides.
The economy and to a troubling new forecast when it comes to the price of eggs, now predicted to rise more than 40% this year.
Another blow to Trump's deportation efforts. A federal judge ruling today that Trump cannot deport migrants to countries that they're not from.
Trump border czar Tom Homan in a war of words with Boston's mayor after ICE arrested nearly 400 migrants in Massachusetts.
We're following developing news tonight as CBS 8 has learned of an ICE roundup happening in El Cajon.
Tonight, President Trump's crackdown on illegal immigration is expanding.
States of emergency as hundreds flee ahead of out-of-control wildfires on the East Coast.
DEI is seemingly dead, keeping with the campaign promise made by President Trump.
We are back, and the New York City mayor, Eric Adams, is asking a federal judge to drop his corruption charges. Tonight, protesters taking to the streets over ICE arrests.
Look at a Planned Parenthood clinic that is on fire.
Like President Trump says he's not joking when it comes to a third term.
Project 2025.
Project 2025.
Project 2025.
Trump's Project 2025.
That is a lot. To be inundated with those images and to be inundated with those headlines, moment after moment, hour after hour, day, week, month after day, week, month, it's almost too much for our human psyche to process. And so we have different ways of coping, disassociating, relying on, alcohol or drugs or people or whatever the case is. We've had to find ways to, or doom scrolling, even worse. We've had to find ways to cope with all of that, all of the external stimuli that is just threatening to, kind of take us under. But I mean, I just, again, want to stress the importance of staying within the moment, relaxing, maybe meditating. I've had to figure out a whole bunch of ways in terms of how I cope. But one of the things that has happened is focusing on getting this set together. So I wanted to thank my girlfriend Sadia, who came in a pinch, because honestly, I had no idea how this set was going to come together. I just had a bunch of ideas, but I could barely draw stick figures, so I needed somebody who had a way with aesthetics to make my vision kind of come to life. So slowly but surely, the set was getting built. First we had the wall, and then we ordered this and came up with the color scheme and that sort of thing, and the rendering was created, and then we started the build out, and slowly but surely I started to actually see this is a thing. This is a thing, you guys. This is a thing, bubs. And here we are, the new set of Hot and Bothered with Melyssa Ford. I mean, honestly, growth is really challenging, but when the risk is worth the reward, I mean, it really is the greatest thing ever. So here we are at season 2. Season 1 was unbelievable. And there's definitely different ways to read that. It was like pushing a boulder up a hill wearing roller skates at sometimes. I mean, we crawled to the finish line, but when we got to the finish line, we ended the season with Jadakiss, the legend and the icon. He was so incredible. The episode was incredible. Shout out to everybody that just made that episode a reality. And it was just a wonderful way to wrap up season 1 and then just kind of take a moment to reflect of how we got there, because it really wasn't easy. In terms of the whole set design, that came about because I was running through New York trying to figure out where did I want to shoot? Where's a podcast studio that hasn't been used by everybody and their mother? I just felt a way about, using somebody else's aesthetic. It just didn't feel like it belonged to me. And so again, so birthed the idea of season 2. So here we are at season 2. I'm going to be bearing it all from top to bottom. Get your minds out of the gutter, because it's not that kind of party. But we did some really fun things with, the promo photo shoot. First season was very doctor heavy. And even though that was really what I wanted it to be understood that this podcast is really about bridging the gap between sex and wellness, but also focusing on other aspects of health. Sexual health and wellness for women, and also men. Mental health for all of us. And for men who tend not to be very proactive about their health, yes, that was a generalization, but the statistics really lend credibility to that generalization. This was a way for me to kind of educate you guys on screenings and the preventable diseases that we seem to be afflicted by more than our, other counterparts. So that's what season 2 is going to be. It's going to be still medical health professionals, but there's going to be a lot of really incredible guests. And we're expanding. Season 1 was 10 episodes. Season 2, going up to 20. That's right. Right, bub? We're going up to 20. Okay, she's not fucking with me today, so I'm just gonna have a little sip over here before I get into some other stuff. So in first season, it was very doctor heavy, which I wanted it to be, because this podcast is about bridging the gap between sex and wellness. It also focuses on both genders' sexual health and wellness. It focuses on mental health, but then it also focuses on being proactive about screenings and your health as you start to age. So those are the reasons why I had a lot of doctors in season 1. Now season 2, we're expanding. We're expanding in terms of length, in terms of the amount of episodes, and therefore I feel like it helped us expand the kinds of guests that we're going to have. I am so excited about the guests that we're going to have in season 2. Like, it's really gonna knock your socks off, you guys. From one episode to the next, you are going to be shocked at who's sitting beside me and the conversations that we have. When it comes to the guests that I've hand selected, one thing that I go out of my way to do with each and every interview is to find the questions that they've never been asked. That's what I want to do. I want to peel back the layers of this person's multidimensionalism. Yeah, that's a word. Yeah. In a way that reintroduces them to you. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I hope to accomplish during this season. So I'm really excited about the guests that we're going to have and the types of conversations that we're going to have. So you guys gotta stay tuned for that. So one thing that I realized from season 1 is you gotta know when to pivot, even if it's a slight pivot. So even though I wanted to, continue to interview nothing but doctors, it started to feel like I was delivering like medicine with no honey. And I didn't want to do that. I had to figure out, okay, how do I maintain the balance of education but also entertainment? Sometimes when it comes to the concept of something that you might be married to, you also, I guess you kind of got to get to the point where you unmarry yourself to the concept and pivot. Sometimes the pivot is a complete 180, and sometimes it's just a slight little tweak. So I would say that one of the ways in which I want to pivot is to acknowledge some of the comments. The comment section, it's a scary place. It's a really scary place. And going back to talking about mental health, sometimes it's not the best place for your mental health. It really just isn't. The comment section can really make you question your entire existence. It'll make you question your self-worth, your self-esteem, all the things. Like, we're human beings and we're not strong every single day. We don't have the tools to withstand, a lot of criticism and, for that matter, hate. There's some comments that I won't even bother responding to because they were just very abusive in nature, and honestly, go get help. But there were some comments that I felt like I wanted to address. And the one thing that I never want to do here is I never just want to act like everything is all good and just focus on the people who just love me and, have nothing but good things to say to me. All of that is wonderful. It really, really is. But when it comes to being, I feel like just a regular person, but especially if you are a forward-facing, personality and, visible person who has a lot of visibility, you really have to apply the same weight to criticism and praise. You just have to. Because if you start to buy into your own press, well, when they kick the pedestal out from underneath your feet, because it will happen, that fall is going to be fast and it's going to be heavy and it's hard to recover from that. But then on the flip side, when all you do is absorb the criticism, well, then you will just have a really, really difficult time understanding or being able to see yourself through your own lens. You'll constantly be judging yourself through the lens of others. And take it from me, that's no way to live. It just isn't. I spent years in therapy trying to deal with that. So what I want to do is I want to read some of the comments. I'm going to start with Childless Cat Lady, which was episode number 9. That is the episode that I would say was the most polarizing. A lot of you got it. A lot of you didn't. Mainly what I was talking about in terms of got it was the name of the episode. That was done intentionally. I actually don't have any cats, but also I really love cats and see nothing wrong with people who have cats. But it was basically highlighting the ridiculousness of this speech that J.D. Vance had made about childless cat ladies having nothing to offer to society and civilization whatsoever. That is completely ridiculous. So that's why the title of the episode was as such. And also it was provocative because Well, it worked because 77,000 of you watched the episode, and a lot of you had a lot to say. I think that it's the episode that has the most comments, so worked. So let me get into some of the comments because the women were very positive. The men, on the other hand, not so much. So I really want to read those comments. All right, this one was from Ike Matthew, I believe, 6946. This is eye-opening. Fellas, good guy or not, if she's not feeling you and she needs to make an exit, let her go. She's doing you the favor. It just is what it is. The same for y'all women, and it's okay. That was not so bad because I agree with you. You know, why would you stay in any relationship that doesn't serve you or make you feel good or, you know, whatever, or even worse, coming to terms with the fact that you don't love the person the way that they deserve. I mean, that's a really hard thing to kind of accept and to come to terms with, but the alternative is staying in a relationship that you're not happy with and you're not giving your all to, which that person might actually deserve. So, you know, I don't know, my attitude has always kind of been like, rip the Band-Aid off and then kind of heal through the pain so that you can move on with your life. Eventually they will too. So thank you, Ike Matthew 6946. Okay, now we're getting into the nitty gritty, right? Right, Days? All right. This one is at comedian Ty Mills with a Z. All right. Damn, she cheated, left a dude who loved her, and got with another guy who was abusive. But now you're trying to say, this is the life that you wanted. You left a man who actually loved you to mess with a bunch of dudes who never loved you the same. Laughing emoji. How she paints herself as a victim and this heroic woman is hilarious. Well, thank you for your comment, first of all. Thank you for watching the entire episode. I really appreciate that. And thank you for the engagement. I really appreciate that as well. There's a little bit of victim blaming in this, though. Because yes, I left somebody who I did not love the same way he loved me. So should I have stayed in that relationship and been unfulfilled and then he senses that and he's with a woman that doesn't love him the way that he deserves? Okay, that's one. Number two, I left him for somebody that I fell in love with. So it's my fault that he was abusive towards me? That's a really interesting optic. That's called victim blaming, though. I will tell you that. Did I know that that man was going to be abusive? No. Did I deal with the abuse for longer than I should have? Yes. Did I eventually pick myself up and get out of that relationship because it was abusive and I thought there was a chance that I might die? Yes, I did. It's really not for you to kind of question why, you know, somebody kind of makes those. And also, let's just also acknowledge I'm in my 20s here. How many of us make the best choices in their 20s? Our 20s are for making all the wrong decisions. You know what I mean? And the rest of our life is for processing all of those learning lessons and learning from them. You know, one of the things that I came to terms with during that time is that marriage really wasn't that important to me. I had to work through that a lot, you know, because as little girls, that's what we're taught. Like that is our goal. Forget a career. The goal is to get married. The goal is to get chosen. The goal is for that white picket fence and the 2.3 kids and getting married. That's the goal. But it isn't the reality for a lot of people, men or women. And so navigating through these relationships and slowly but surely learning a little bit more of myself, I just came to the realization that getting married and having kids, like if it happened, great. But if it didn't, okay. You know, I mean, yes. Thank you again for your comment. So let me go on to another one. This one is from Ronald Pilgrim 5868. Some women are not wife material. Does not matter how pretty they are. Nothing about M. Ford says wife, and that's okay. Well, thank you again for your comment. Thank you again for the engagement and watching the episode. Thank you. But let's take apart what you just said. Some women are not wife material, does not matter how pretty they are. A lot of times, that is like one of the main qualifiers for guys, is how pretty a woman is. And that's not to, discount the fact that women have their own qualifiers. But just stay here with me right now. Let's just stay with this point right now. And then you guys can go all over the place and get mad or whatever. But let's just go with that. So no matter how pretty they are. So evidently, Ronald Pilgrim, that is a requirement for you that your wife is beautiful. Nothing about M. Ford says wife, and that's okay. From this description, you're right. You're absolutely right. I don't think that I would be a good wife for you, because I'm not sure what you think a good wife is supposed to be, but let's just really be honest. I think that if you got a group of your friends around and you all asked each other the question as to what is a good wife, you would be very surprised to find that you might not all agree on what the definition of a good wife is. Like, let's really think about what we all think the definition of a good wife is. Is it servitude? Is it beauty? Is it, allowing you to lead without questioning? Is it somebody who performs acts of service without asking for anything in return, or just understanding that that is her position? That never sounded appealing to me. If I was ever to get married, I'm looking for a partner. I'm looking for somebody who wants to grow with me in the direction I'm already kind of moving. But that's just me, So, yeah, these were really, really eye-opening. Nothing about M. Ford says wife, and that's okay. You're right. It is okay. In hindsight, because men really like to talk about accountability, when we all should be talking about accountability, it's not a man-woman thing. We all should find ways of being accountable to ourselves, to the people that we love, et cetera, et cetera. But if I'm going to take a moment to pause, if I'm going to take a moment to acknowledge certain things about past decisions when I was in my 20s and fumbling through life, the way that I exited that relationship of the guy who really loved me, I wish that I could do things really differently. I think that it takes us a long time to be able to have that level of maturity to understand this person deserves better. This person deserves more, and I should really, instead of thinking about myself and my own comfort level, be uncomfortable, but deal with the situation as is required, honestly. So that's how I can take accountability. The other way I've taken accountability is also by going to therapy for many, many years, because I wanted to reach that level of maturity. I wanted to reach that level of self-awareness so that I can call myself on certain behaviors, so that I can acknowledge things about my past. I can acknowledge things that trigger me. I can acknowledge a whole bunch of things. And one thing that I've realized by way of going through intense therapy over the years and reaching a level of self-awareness is realizing how many people run from that. It is not easy to get to that point in life where you truly acknowledge, all of your flaws and your foibles and, all the dirty, messy parts of yourself. But what I've also realized is that people who have reached a certain level of self-awareness don't really have a lot of criticism for others because they understand the human condition. They understand how, to be human is to err. So they just regard missteps in judgment with a lot less of a judgmental eye. So that's one parting thing that I would love to tell people. Like, if you're not in therapy and think that you're above it, I promise you you're not. And I promise you it would probably be the best decision that you ever made for yourself. And not just couples therapy, because that's dealing with your relationship, Therapy for oneself, that is, you can't beat it. So I'm gonna go to another episode. This was racial disparities in women's health, and this was Dr. Femi. I believe this was episode 3. This is from OG Smiley 5242. Melyssa Ford, this is constructive criticism as I sit here crying. The best thing about your episodes thus far is you. I relate 100% to your experience at the gynecologist. Yes, I'm in menopause after having had a hysterectomy this year. I have hot flashes, and night sweats. Cholesterol level is raised despite healthy eating. Weight has gone up despite working out 4 to 5 times a week. Girl, I know. Harder to get the weight number down as moving like a turtle. I was told this can be attributed to menopause. I'm also an advocate for myself, so I made an appointment to see a menopause specialist. What I'd like to see in your future guests are resolutions medically or naturally to help women in menopause. Get more interesting guests who know menopause yields many symptoms. You hit the nail on the head. The unfortunate truth is that we're in the dark ages as it relates to menopause. Like, literally, the sun has just come out. It has been with Gen X that menopause has finally, kind of, it's now on the map. It's now like a buzzword. Everybody's talking about it, but nobody knows what to do with it because there's been no research. There's no peer studies. There's nothing to kind of like look at as the cure or the symptom relief or whatever. We're literally in real time biohacking our bodies and doing studies to figure out how to help women during this transitional phase of our lives that lasts 10 to 20 years. So you're absolutely right. I do want to have more guests on the show that can speak to symptom alleviation and how to navigate this process. There just is not a whole lot of information right now because the medical industry failed us. The medical industry acted like after our childbearing years, we have no value. Like, in no uncertain terms, that is the message that we have received, which is why doctors have not been given any training as to how to deal with menopause and menopausal patients. It's the reason why our gynecologists don't have any answers. Halle Berry said that she went to her gynecologist and he told her that she had the worst case of herpes he'd ever seen. She didn't have herpes. She had a symptom of menopause, which was, extreme vaginal dryness. I mean, this is really uncomfortable to talk about, but the reality is that we have to normalize these conversations. We have to normalize the aging process. But as women, it seems like we're not really allowed to age. That's how the beauty industry has a multi-billion-dollar sect called anti-aging. It's not marketed to men. It's marketed to us. And the reality is because we're not supposed to age. Well, we do. And I'm a pro-aging advocate. I don't want to fight the natural process of aging. I don't want to, because that's robbing me of my human experience. And it's robbing you of your human experience. As a matter of fact, we should be, this sounds crazy, but we should be celebrating this time in our life because now we've crossed over. Now it's not about having children and raising children. It's about being able to embrace this part of our life where we have accumulated all of this life experience and now have this enormous amount of wisdom that we just want to share. We just want to give it out. We just want to make people's lives better by sharing the lived experiences that we've had and the things that we have learned from them. So I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my best to find more and more experts in this field, but I'm telling you, it's hard. It's really, really hard right now. Okay, don't fear the finger. This was episode 7, where we discussed the high statistical rate of Black men succumbing to colorectal cancer. Okay, so we are at Don't Fear the Finger. I really like this episode. It was episode number 7, and basically it was to raise awareness about the high prevalency rate of colorectal cancer and prostate cancers in the African American community. Black men suffer from these diseases 4 to 5 times more than any of their other counterparts. And these are cancers that are survivable in stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 even. But once it gets to stage 4, which is oftentimes when they find out they've got this disease, your chances of survival decrease to basically like 13%. Just general statistic. And my concern was that I was seeing so many Black men, especially in this industry, die from colon cancer. I mean, Reggie Osei died from colon cancer. DJ Clark Kent died from colon cancer. Chadwick Boseman died from colon cancer. The list is endless. And I really wanted to do something about this. If I can use my platform to educate and inform, then that's what I have to do. My mom passed away from colon cancer. So it's very, very, very personal to me. So I wanted to make men understand the importance of screenings. And if they'd never even heard of what screenings are, I wanted to make them aware of what that is and the ages in which you're supposed to go. But if your family history dictates that there's a history of said diseases, then the year in which you are supposed to get screened is so much lower, so much younger. So anyways, let me read a comment from there. This is from balraj.g. Really great discussion. I think a lot of men from ethnic minorities have the same issues about seeing the doctor. It's definitely about being brought up with the mentality of being tough and masculine. I'm a therapist working with mental health and addictions, recovery worker, and this is a very common issue, unfortunately. Thank you, Melyssa, for discussing this topic. Thank you for your comment. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate the work that you do. But yeah, I mean, guys, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like men need to have like this come to Jesus moment about what your idea of masculinity means, because a lot of you are choosing that over your overall health. I mean, I understand that a prostate exam and a colonoscopy is not a walk in the park, but I mean, honestly, we as women, we are so used to being poked and prodded since a young age that it's just like, all right, whatever, just go ahead, you know? But it's something that I feel like you guys should, you know, just kind of like, just do it. Just suck it up and do it, you know? Because if it means having you here for your families and living a healthy life for a long time, I mean, I feel like the trade-off is really is worth it, you know? So that was the reason for that episode, and thank you so much for commenting on it. Okay, Melyssa's favorite things. Boy, was this a disaster. But this taught me resilience. Like I needed another lesson in resilience, but the show must go on. If you didn't watch that episode, it was an audio disaster. But thank God I had Rachel there with me, because she had the bright idea to go on IG Live. So if you were not able to hear me on YouTube Live, then you could hear what I was saying on IG Live. And like I said, the show went on. This is from Sajay8606. I like seeing the raw footage of the mishap in the beginning. Everything isn't perfect from the start. YT girlies used to be doing makeup on their floor in videos, and now they are millionaires and do full productions. Amen and hallelujah. Thank you for your comment as well. That's one of the things that I had a discussion with in my Twitter spaces, and shout out to my Twitter community. Shout out to the hot and bothered Twitter community. My moderators, you girls are rock stars. You're rock stars, and I love you so much. But we had a Twitter spaces where somebody asked me, hey, Melyssa, do you regret, like, you know, not starting your podcast when you had, you know, all your ducks in a row and had everything just, you know, right and perfect? I said, no, not even a little bit. Good or perfect is the enemy of good. fail forward. I really like to show people the mishaps. I like to show people the blooper reel. The one thing I'm never, ever, 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 ever trying to sell is perfection, ever. I'm trying to sell hope. I'm trying to sell manifest your dreams because they can become a reality. I'm also trying to sell sometimes life comes along and kicks you in the fucking face. And what are you going to do with it? Sometimes you just have to kind of lay there and just like be like, okay, well that sucked. And you cry and you mourn, but then you pick yourself up and you kind of get over it. You know, you push through. Like that's what I'm selling. And I wanted people from day one on this journey to see what growth looks like. Because when I am on syndicated network TV, you all are going to be able to go back to season 1 and see all the mishaps and all the imperfections there. And you're going to be able to like, you know, feel like the moment belongs to you as much as it belongs to me. And that's what I want, you know? So thank you for this comment because I think that that's the point. I think the point is to make people understand, don't wait until it's perfect. Just start. Because if you're a perfectionist like me, who's had to go to therapy for perfectionism, you'll never start. You will never get off the pot. You will just constantly think a hole in your head, and guess what? Your designs and your ideas will stay in your head or in a sketchbook, and they never come to fruition. So fail forward, perfect is the enemy of good, pick whatever cliche applies to this, but just do the thing, and then eventually it will get to the status of which you want it to be. All right, I think this was the last one. Surviving the music industry. This was a two-parter episode. This was episode number 6, and this was with one of my very best friends, Natasha Ellie. This is from Alexa-UK8LJ. I love this chat and exploration of a quote-unquote good female friendship. The irony of Mel finding it ironic that Natasha's father affirmed her despite liking lighter women when Mel's father is an example of the same. Natasha mentioned she wasn't close to her mother, and I wonder if that's the deeper source of her mean girl behavior. Also, I have a feeling Mel wasn't liked because she was probably often in her head, as most intelligent people are. Thank you, because it's true. Next season, hoping for beauty, fitness, travel tips, and more wellness education. I got you. Yes, absolutely. This was a great comment because it's making me think a lot about things that I didn't necessarily think. I'm just thinking about my dad. My dad died when I was 15, almost 16 years old, and I can't tell you the amount of questions that I would have had for him as a grown woman, as a mature woman, that I just didn't have the capability or the understanding to ask him when I was, you know, a child, basically. But yeah, I definitely would have like a lot of questions. I don't think that I found it ironic that Natasha's father affirmed her despite liking lighter skinned women. I don't think that was what crossed my mind. I feel like that's like those are mutually exclusive concepts, honestly. But you're right about Natasha. She's pretty vocal about how complicated her relationship was with her mother. So, you know, it might have been one of the reasons for mean girl behavior. I'll put this past Natasha. Well, maybe we'll have another chat and delve deeper into that aspect of our lives, separate from one another. But I'm really glad that you liked that episode. I felt like that episode was really, really important because when it comes to female friendships, they are so complicated. I mean, God bless you, like if you've got your group of girlfriends and you feel like friendship soulmates, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't going to be dynamics and difficulties that you have to and obstacles that you have to overcome. There's going to be points in time in which you might your paths diverge away from each other. And a lot of times we can read things into that divergence as she doesn't care as much about me as she once did, or whatever the case is. As women, we read into a lot of stuff. But I felt like it was important to show like an imperfect friendship with two imperfect women who had to navigate a lot. We had to navigate, quote unquote, fame and how we both responded to it very differently. We had to navigate when our lives took different paths. We had to navigate, jealousy and envy, sometimes being the subject of it, sometimes experiencing it towards each other. We had to navigate all of these conflicting and ambivalent emotions at the same time of knowing that in our heart of hearts and our souls, we loved each other so much. But sometimes with the best relationships, love isn't enough. It just isn't. There has to be a real desire to fix what is broken. And that, I feel like, can be applied to even, to romantic relationships. But I say all that to say that my friendship with Natasha was the perfect example of a real friendship that I could actually, lay out for you guys to see. I'll be completely honest. Being this transparent, exposing myself and my innermost thoughts and my personal business, things that I've never revealed before, it's not easy. It's not easy. I've wrung my hands about it. I've talked to my team about it. I've questioned whether or not I should have said certain things, whether or not I should have even put certain episodes out. Hi, childless cat lady. This has not been easy. And a lot of the decisions that I've made just haven't been made really lightly. And when you have people watching, you expose your innermost thoughts and your mistakes, and then they comment on it and they judge you and they're dismissive of you and they gaslight you and they kind of abuse you. You wonder why the hell you did it in the first place. I couldn't do this show if I didn't do that. I honestly could not do this show if I didn't do that. I really have lived a really incredible life. And that doesn't mean that it's been all good. There has been a lot of trauma. There has been a lot of obstacles to overcome. There has been a lot of pain. But there's also been euphoric highs. There's also been amazing, great times with incredible people, both romantically and platonically, female friendships, etc. I'm no victim. By any stretch of the imagination, am I a victim in any way, shape, or form? I'm not asking for anybody's sympathy. I'm not asking for anybody's empathy. I'm not asking anybody for anything. If you watch this show and it helps you, if you watch this show and you learn something, if you watch this show and you find it entertaining, I feel like I did my job. I feel like I did my job. If you watch this show and you find yourself judging me harshly, well, hopefully you take that as an opportunity to analyze yourself and ask yourself why you feel the need to judge so harshly. Because oftentimes I have found through my own circumstances that there's a lot of projection that goes with judgment. So yeah. That's just my thought. Okay, well, that was a lot. As per usual, thank you for taking the journey with me. This is season 2, episode 1 of Hot and Bothered with Melyssa Ford, set reveal. And I really, really, really am very excited for you guys to see who is going to grace us with their presence on the couch or the pink chair, however, whatever configuration we've got going on. But I really, really am excited. I've got some guests coming through that you know them in one way. They have introduced themselves to the world in one specific way. But by the time their interview is done, you will know them in a completely different way. That is my hope. That is what I hope that I accomplish. So I'm really, really, really excited for you guys to see who we have coming through the studio during season 2. And I just want to leave you with this last piece of advice, if I'm going to give advice. And this is advice that I kind of give myself. The honest truth is, I'm stressed. I am. At this moment in my life, I am stressed. I have a lot going on in my life. I'm forward facing. I receive a lot of criticism. I try to balance it out with, loved ones and my opinions of myself. But I say all that to say that how you talk to yourself is extremely important. If I had not had the amount of intense therapy that I have had, if this was 3 or 4 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to give myself any level of grace. I would have been subject to the opinions of others and their criticism and their abusive commentary. I would literally be in the fetal position on the floor in my bedroom, crying my face off. But how I talk to myself now is very different from the way I used to talk to myself. I give myself grace. I congratulate myself. I tell me I'm proud of me. I acknowledge when I'm having a really difficult time and when I'm feeling all the feels. I'm feeling like, ambivalent emotions that are competing with each other. And you know what? I think to myself, I'm not my emotions. I just let them go by on a bus. I observe them. I let them have their moment. I feel all the feels, and then I let them pass so that I can keep moving forward. So I just know that this is a moment in time, and it's going to get better. It has to get better because it's going to get better. That's just the bottom line. Your inner dialogue is really, really important. Take it from somebody whose inner dialogue used to torture her and now it doesn't. Your inner dialogue is, in my opinion, it can be the make or break of your level of success, honestly. Me 3 to 4 years ago would never have been able to envision this. I would never have been able to have thought that I could have gotten here in such a short amount of time. And for some of you out there, this may seem like a really small thing. This is huge to me. This is huge to me. And my inner dialogue is what allowed this to even happen. So, in closing, I want you all to be very good to yourselves, but also be good to others. And with that, thank you for joining me on Hot and Bothered with Melyssa Ford. If you have not already subscribed, hit that little subscription notice and the little bell for notifications so you are aware of the next time an episode drops. And also listen to us wherever you get your podcasts on all the DSPs. Again, thank you so much for joining me. I'm out.
Thank you for tuning into Hot and Bothered with Melyssa Ford. Please rate, subscribe, and comment, and share wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
This season of Hot and Bothered with Melyssa Ford is hosted, written, and executive produced by me for Forged Path Productions. This episode was written and produced by Sebastian Godin. Filming and editing of this episode is done by GVI Films and executive produced by Rachel DeSalvo.